suing two of his Dallas area colleagues. Sharon Grigsby from the Dallas Morning News joins us live with more. Sharon, this is an interesting story, so tell us more on the latest on this saga.
He grabbed me by the arms and he turned me around and he started kissing me. And, I was...
It's okay.
This whole online witch hunt against Vic was started by a Twitter user named Hanley. I'm sure you guys know this. They tweeted at Funimation one day after the English release of the Broly movie and said, "Hey, at Funimation, why do you employ a known pedophile?" This was one of the things that they used for quote-unquote evidence. A friend linked me this: underage sexual assault.
Were you pretty pleased with that success level?
It was, it was a privilege. I was really proud to be a part of it. I mean, I played this character for 15 years, and he would be in video games and stuff, and when I would do events, fans would always say, "Oh, I love Broly's my favorite character in Dragon Ball. When are they ever going to do anything more with him?" And I would always say, "I don't know, wouldn't that be fun?" And then when this movie was announced, you know, I was really excited about it. I think it's been established there are people at Funimation that don't like me much and wanted me gone.
Well, when you say that there are people at Funimation who don't like you much and wanted you gone, who are you referring to specifically?
Chris Sabat.
Is he a Funimation employee?
I would say he has a great deal of weight at Funimation. A great deal of weight.
Here he says, "The first time I heard Vic's name was in a convention in 2003 or 2004 with Chris Sabat. In that conversation, Chris Sabat verbally disparaged Vic's Christian faith and speculated that Vic was quote-unquote actually gay based on the way he dressed. In that conversation, Chris Sabat stated that Vic was a pedophile who liked quote-unquote little girls. Despite these statements, he did not express concerns about risks to fans, which I thought was odd. During this conversation, there was no specific mention of Vic committing sexual harassment, sexual assault, inappropriate behavior with teenage fans, or that Vic posed a risk to fans at conventions."
My question is actually for all of you. Have you ever, when you're doing, like voice acting for, Dragon Ball Z or for a game or something, gotten sick and you were like halfway through it or something, and they're like, I can't do it. What do they do? Do they postpone it, or do they? Well, what's the protocol?
Well,
for
I
that?
get sick all the time working on Dragon Ball because I have to work with these fools. But what? No, no, I don't. I've never gotten. You mean like lose our voice?
Well, lose your voice or gotten like a flu? Because I knew Broly, Vic. I can't even say his last name, but yeah,
he gets sick all the time.
Yeah, but he always throws out his voice.
Yeah,
and
he
I was
blows
wondering,
hard.
Yeah, if he.
Then he said that in conversations people said that he was a douche, a diva, his clothes were gay. They talked about his infidelity. They talked about a dislike of his conservative Christian beliefs and personal attacks for his support of Donald Trump. All of these comments were made at one time or another by Monica Rial, Jamie Marchi, Chris Sabat, and others. In December 2013 at Yamacon, I had lunch with Sean Schemmel and Sony Strait. Sean Schemmel tried to persuade me to participate in a derogatory video about Vic, known as the Vince Mangina voice actor pedophile video. The video was to portray Vic as a pedophile. I refused because Vic is my friend and he is not a pedophile.
I only do 12-year-old boys pretty much. I mean, that's what I love to do. That's what I really love to do.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, so, I mean, I appreciate that, but the fact of the matter is, I love doing 12-year-old boys, and I love going to preschools and watching them through the fence to get in the mood to do them. It's really inspirational.
I'm sure you guys have already seen this screenshot of two women coming out and saying that Sean Schemmel actually sexually harassed them. Obviously, if we were to go with the Kick Vic and #MeToo mantra of listen and believe, we would have to assume that Sean Schemmel was wrong in this situation. One person says that Sean Schemmel put his hand under their skirt at Anime Midwest at 2011, and another girl said that he took a pen and put it back into their tank top between their boobs, and when he did it, he pulled down their top seemingly purposely to get a cheap look. A lot of people who have problems with Vic Mignogna will claim that he's more likely to be guilty of sexual assault because he's been rude to convention staff. So I would love to reference this video about this guy meeting Sean Schemmel in 2018, way before all this Vic stuff happened, where Sean was being not only rude to convention staff, but rude to fans 2 days in a row.
What is going on? Where is she? Where are the people? There's a whole, I'm standing there and nobody's there. I've got a giant line I'm trying to get through, and I'm getting real frustrated with this system.
And that
was my first experience seeing Sean up close. And you know, I don't know what he was going through for the day, but when I saw that he wasn't joking, it kind of took the joy out of it. The staff members were visibly frustrated, and I heard some off comments from them that this has kind of been a continuing thing with him. So I asked him if he would make the picture out to my friend Holden.
Is this made out to you or just signed?
Yeah, to my friend Holden.
He kind of looks over at me like, what? And then he signs it to my friend, in quotes, Holden, just to clarify that we are not actually friends. I really wasn't sure how to react to this whole thing. After years and years and years of going to cons and meeting celebrities and taking pictures with them, not buying anything and just shaking their hand to meet them, I had never really had an experience like this before. And throughout the con the rest of that day and even the next day, I would watch as Sean would kind of interact with people in this really uncomfortable way. And I couldn't help but thinking to myself, had it been any other person, celebrity or otherwise, I would have thought that he was just being a jackass. And this thought just really bothered me. This is in part why I never talked about meeting him like I did with Jason Douglas, who is the voice of Beerus. And even still, after 3 days of seeing the same thing, I still gave him the benefit of the doubt. Maybe he had something going on in his life or something. After the fact, and I had been thinking about this for several months, I started to see some stories online of other people who had run-ins with him, and they were very, very similar.
My experience working at Funimation was unpleasant. It is well known that if one falls out of favor with certain people, including Chris Sabat, or if one tries to do anything to change the working conditions, that person will not be rehired as a voice actor. I felt threatened with not being used as a voice actor in subsequent projects if I complained about the work environment. Funimation posted no employment policies regarding sexual harassment in the workplace or at conventions. Funimation did not provide an employee handbook to me, Vic, Jamie, or Monica. In the 20 years I worked at Funimation, it was very common for employees, voice actors, writers, producers, directors to hug and kiss each other at the Funimation offices. Raunchy and sexual comedy was extremely common.
I do have one more request. It has to do with our training regime. Will you guys suck me off until I come all over your faces?
So yeah, these people who are trying to take the high ground against Vic, saying he's a creep or whatever, apparently they've recorded a lot of outtake audio where they're making jokes about, you know, homophobia, drugs, STDs, grape without the G. I mean, in literally one of them, Yamcha is getting raped by Piccolo. Sexual relationships between Funimation employees and voice actors was common. No one was ever disciplined or terminated for this conduct. When Sony acquired a majority interest in Funimation in late 2017, a no hugs policy was announced. Funimation employees and voice actors largely ignored this policy at first. The voice actors, including Jamie and Monica and other Funimation employees, talked and flirted freely at Funimation on a regular basis, though this did become less common after Sony instituted the no hugs policy. When the Dragon Ball Kai was being recorded in 2007, I heard rumors that actresses had been recast at Funimation for refusing sexual advances by Funimation employees. I considered these rumors credible based on my experience working at Funimation and from direct messages received from a former DBZ cast member. I also heard that actresses who participated in sex with Funimation/Okatron 5000 employees were cast in roles. Damn, so he's basically saying that Chris Sabat was one of the people who would recast voice actors at Funimation if they refused sexual advances with, I'm assuming, him.
Hi, how did you both get into voice acting in the beginning?
Well, I slept with Chris Sabat. I know that, Matt. Yeah, you too?
I mean, if we're already talking on the topic, we might as well.
We all did, actually.
It just took me many years before he eventually brought me out to Texas. So.
Yeah, it was not so much a casting couch as a casting love seat, but we were all thinner then, so it was easier to fit on that casting couch.
So this may be a thing where he's just making a casual joke with Chris Sabat, but think about it, guys. He named Chris Sabat as someone he had to sleep with as a joke to, you know, get his role. And he even said, we all did. I don't know, I feel like that is way too coincidental with everything that's going on right now. He could have named anyone. He could have said, oh, I had to sleep with Sean Schemmel, I had to sleep with whoever, but he named Chris Sabat specifically. It may be because Chris Sabat is in a position of power, so that was a part of the joke. But again, guys, Chuck Huber said something very, very specific in his affidavit. He made the suggestion that Chris Sabat is involved in a scandal where people in power at Funimation are forcing female voice actresses to sleep with them to keep their roles, otherwise they'll be recast. That is way too specific of a thing. And the voice actor of Krillin, someone who has worked at Funimation for many, many years, just so happens to make a joke in that exact same nature.
You move your mouth and I'll do the voice. Okay, look at the camera.
Well, anyway, kids, it's been great talking to you. I hope you learned a lot about carrots. Also, did you know that when I started out, I actually had to sleep with Chris Sabat to get a job? I have no idea what to say.
They take things that we have done, sounds that we've made, lines that we've said, outtakes that we have, and make raps of them. One of the first experiences I had with that was I had done some fighting reactions for kitty grade, and my engineer took them all, or was this Chris Sabat? Might have been Chris who did this. I think it was Chris. Took them all, totally something he would do. Put them together, and then put porn music behind the track, and then put the sound of bed springs behind it. So it sounded like I was making a porn. And then at the end, he included a line that I'd said in the show, something like, "I'm out of here," or something like that. So one of my very first experiences at Funimation was a little humiliating.
He kept kissing me and kind of pushed me back onto the bed and actually got on top of me, and I still have like a very visual, like a nightmare actually, that the feeling of looking at the door and thinking, how do I get out of this? Like how do I get out of there without ruining the friendship that we'd had, that we had built? And then Stan came to the door, and when Stan came to the door, he jumped up and ran to the door, and I kind of covered my face because being pale, if anything's happening, you can see it all over my face. Stan came in. He asked me as we were leaving, you know, "Are you okay?" I said, "Oh, yeah, I'm fine." Just kind of kept covering my face.
We all know about the infamous hotel story that Monica Rial tells about Vic, but in her deposition when she referenced that story, she names one key witness who came into the room after Vic, you know, did whatever to Monica Rial, and according to her, he saw that her face was distressed and asked her if she was okay. Monica Rial said this after being sworn in a deposition, right? However, the man that she referenced, Stan, completely disagrees with her statement. In this affidavit that he gave, he, you know, introduces himself and said that he read Monica Rial's response to whatever. He talks about Monica Rial and Vic being guests at the con that they were referencing, and he says that he has no memory of the events described in bullet point 4 of the response involving him. If I had noticed Monica Rial being distressed leaving Victor Mignogna's room, I am certain that I would remember it. In subsequent years, I invited Monica Rial and Victor Mignogna back to my convention several times. I would never have done this if I had been informed of any problems between Monica Rial and Victor Mignogna. There have been these photos that have been circulating since yesterday where Vic is kissing a fan for a charity event. So what does Kick Vic do? Oh, this is a perfect opportunity to label Vic a pedo. So what does our favorite person over here do? He mocks people who say that Vic's not a pedo, and then he says, like here, at OniCon 2008 during halftime of the cosplay contest, a quote-unquote kiss from Vic was auctioned off. Some guys bid up the price of $20, and when no one would claim it, this poor 16-year-old girl accepted being a sacrifice, expected a peck, but got a face lick. Pretty much everything here is a lie. First of all, the girl whose statement I'll show you in a second was actually 18, not 16, but of course they'll lower the age to make Vic seem very creepy. Second of all, he didn't lick her face. They stopped the video at a weird time to make it look like that, but I'll show you guys the video in a second and you'll see why that's a lie. Thirdly, once again, they stopped the video at a weird time to make the girl look uncomfortable, but once again, after I show you the video, you'll see that she's not uncomfortable.
I'm going to sign that for you, and we took longer, but it's for a good cause. You guys, thank you so much for making this fun. We love you. Merry Christmas to you.
So obviously she wasn't uncomfortable at all. She was literally jumping for joy, and you could see that Vic didn't lick her like Greg claims. He's just a liar, and he's going to misconstrue everything to make Vic look bad. If all of that didn't make him already look bad enough, here's a statement from that girl. Well, this is new. Apparently, I'm being used for the whole Vic Mignogna shit from a video from 2008. It was back at the OniCon cosplay contest for a charity auction. I knew I was gonna get a kiss on the cheek. I was 18 at the time, so it wasn't creepy in the slightest to me. Remember, Greg claimed that she was 16. Also, it was for fucking charity. Anyone saying I was uncomfortable needs to stop spreading false accusations. The face I made was one of pure fangirling, excitement, and hilarity in front of everyone. My friends and I egged each other on. We had fun. It was 11 years ago. Do not use me to spread your shitty agenda. Keep me out of it. I mean, I don't even really need to say anything. I mean, that pretty much just debunks everything he said. It debunks pretty much everything that Vic has been saying for this specific situation, as well as dozens and dozens, if not hundreds of other photos where they take it out of context. Like I've said before in other videos, this type of stuff is documented on channels like mine.
We started laughing so much we were rolling around on the floor in the hallway. And Vic and Lucy came up at about that time and they were like, oh no. And became like the mommy and daddy and like watch us.
Stan Dolan is back and he's debunking some convention rumors about Vic and just convention rumors in general, really. His first example of convention hearsay is 2 shots to my 1 shot happened at AWA 2008. If you don't know what that is, it's in reference to Travis and Monica's drinking challenge. I don't know who Travis is, but obviously we all know who Monica is. Not in the same year, I took a group of voice actors to Cartoon Network and Adult Swim for a private tour. Funny story, voice actors met an executive of Cartoon Network who asked who they were in town. We were here for the anime convention. What's anime? True story. A convention released a spreadsheet of guest appearance fees that they had agreed upon to their guests. Oops. A guest was accused of, I don't think I can say that word, otherwise I'm going to get demonetized, at AWA by a young female. Turned out she was actually upset with her boyfriend. Needless to say, the convention, hotel, and police were not amused. Using that as an example to say these types of accusations at conventions aren't new. Convention hearsay. AWA 1 took place the same weekend as the World Series. Falcons and Georgia Tech games in a hotel that was triple booked. Vic was accused by a con-goer for yelling at another attendee at AWA dealer's room. The person failed to notice the video camera pointing at Vic, nor the fact the attendee was laughing. When asked if he heard what Vic was saying, he replied with, I did not hear what he was saying. Sounds about right. Vic was doing a video shoutout similar to what you would hear at a WWE event. The video was to play to Aaron Dismuke at another convention. Sorry if I pronounced that wrong. The point of this thread is to show that these convention rumors aren't new, and they especially aren't new when they concern Vic. I mean, that guy accused Vic of, yelling at somebody in an aggressive manner, yet he himself admitted that he didn't even hear what Vic was saying. In reference to that 2 shots to my 1 shot incident that Stan mentioned, there's a Kiwi Farms thread about Monica Rial verbally explaining that event. But remember that they accused Vic of being stumbling drunk a few times, and Vic said in his deposition that he's never been stumbling drunk in his entire life. Remember, these are accusations being made by his accusers, obviously, right? But at Anime World Chicago 2012, Monica had a panel where she can drink like more than most people, or pretty much more than anyone. And she even challenged a guy named Travis Willingham. Apparently he won, but she had gotten so drunk that he had to carry her to her room. But apparently she made more, deals with him of drinking games and stuff like that. And apparently she got like incredibly drunk and was doing some insane shenanigans. And then Vic and someone named Lucy Christian saw them doing this and became quote unquote like the mommy and daddy in like Watch Us. So apparently Monica had gotten so drunk that she needed supervision, and she was pretty proud of it considering she was bragging about getting drunk at a panel. So I mean, these are just character analysis things that you guys should really take into account when, who you want to believe and all that stuff. Every single accusation about Vic, like they're getting more and more ridiculous, and like, oh, Vic is getting drunk, of course he's going to behave like this. They make like the strangest correlations to things, yet his main accuser has admitted getting drunk so many times and is actually quite proud of that fact.
Some of us are just smart. It's cool. Whatever works for you.
All right. So do you like a nation of super children? Let's talk about a nation of super children.
Montreal and go to the Italian festival in Montreal, and I bought the worst leopard underwear just because I thought it would be fun on the street. This guy, you're gonna like it. It's gonna look good on you. I'm like, I'll take them.
Really? Am I right?
And so this particular character, then later, he had moved from Tennessee to be a voice actor at Funimation, and we were at this panel. It was the first panel of the weekend. There were several of us there, like Wendy Powell, Christopher Bevins, Clarion Harp, myself. I think Chris Ayers was sitting next to me, this side, and Bevins was here, and Wendy Powell's at the end. And this guy, I didn't know who he is. He's dressed as like the Avatar dude, and he's sitting in the front with his hand up. We didn't even introduce ourselves yet. He's got his hand up, and we all introduced ourselves, and Christopher Bevins is talking and starts to act like he's going to take questions, but then he stops and starts talking more. And I realize he's agitating this guy in the carpet. So I'm like, what is he doing? And then finally he's like, okay, what's your question? Because he knew who the guy was, and he knew the history and all the stuff. So the guy stands up and puts his hands behind his back and like takes a stance. And I don't know if it was adrenaline or just crazy, but he was shaking uncontrollably while he was talking.
That's so sad.
And stood up and said he was the next Vic Mignogna, and he knew it, and he needed to know what he needed to do because he was told he needed to go to Flower Mound or live in Texas and do theater, and he's done 2 plays, and he went to the finest acting schools in Chattanooga, Tennessee, which made me laugh because I thought he was joking. So I'm like, Powell did not get that he was serious, so she continues to crack up the entire time. And he demands to know what he needs to do. And at one point during this, I was like, oh my gosh, you could have a gun. You could really have a gun. And Christopher Bevins dealt with it really well. He was like, look, you have to have a positive attitude. You cannot come in expecting to be treated a certain way because you think you're good. You have to, be nice to other people. And like, kind of, it's actually on YouTube. A little bit of it is. And then the guy like nods and grabs his stuff and leaves. Later, he like cornered another voice actress, like sought like the weakest that he saw, the weakest of the pack, cornered her like against a wall and demanded that she help him get into the industry, that she was his only hope. And he eventually got kicked out of the convention, is no longer allowed in any conventions in Texas because of his behavior. He stormed into Funimation and at the new studios and had to be forcibly removed, and he is the reason why we have those locks, and you have to have a pass and the badges to get into Funimation now. It was terrifying.
You guys remember the Stan Dolan situation, right? Where he was misquoted in an affidavit saying that, oh, he saw me distressed and all that. Monica said that he saw her being distressed after the whole kissing situation, and he completely denied it. Well, there's another situation like this now with this person named Erica McCord, who was mentioned in an affidavit, and they said a lot of things about her, that she was a die-hard fan of Vic Mignogna, she would fly with Mignogna and accompany him places, Vic kissed her without her consent, and then she did not want to work with him anymore. She referenced this situation and said, my name is Erica and welcome to my TED Talk. Vic Mignogna has never kissed me, nor have I ever told someone that he kissed or forcibly kissed me. Vic Mignogna has never paid for my airfare to fly me to a convention. I have never been afraid of Vic Mignogna. I did not ask to be assigned to Vic Mignogna at AWA in 2014 or 2015. I did not make any assertion that I would not staff the event if that request wasn't honored. I have never been a quote-unquote die-hard fan of Vic Mignogna. I have defended him on multiple occasions. The behavior I have defended has been in regards to people calling him a drama queen, a diva, or an ass. So she pretty much flat out denied everything that this person said about her in the affidavit. So your perspective is so unique because you know Vic better than 99% of us, right? So what is your overall, I mean, you just said you witnessed him with his fans just having a good time, right? Being positive,
right,
being kind to fans and all that. So despite everything you've heard and everything that we've seen throughout this whole situation, what is your overall impression of Vic?
I think that overall, Vic is a guy that he loves his fans. And I'm going to tell this story because he's told it a million times and it's on video somewhere. But in the past, Vic was married and he had not biological children, but that woman had 2 children, and those were, the only kids he's ever had. And when they divorced, they were basically pulled away from him. And so the people that he interacts with at the convention kind of became like surrogate family for him. Those were his children. I've heard him say in a number of panels, you guys are kind of like the kids I've never had. He's so invested in these people, and it's I'm often just shocked. Even before it became common for guests to sell their autograph, I remember before that became the norm in most anime convention circles, at least, that the guest was paid a flat fee by the convention. They showed up and they signed things and they sold merchandise, but you got 1 or 2 things signed for free. And he would just be so upset if we had to cut a line. Because those people had already stood there and waited for him, and he didn't think it was fair, that he didn't want to disappoint them. Everything he does, more or less, is for his fans.
So this statement from Hanlia's friend, which is supposed to show that Vic's a pedo, was actually about Monica's ex-boyfriend. So luckily, Kirst actually highlighted a specific part of it, or she just found an image where it was highlighted, so we don't have to read through the whole thing. But Hanlia's friend said, I first considered it when Vic married a 16-year-old to avoid statutory, I don't want to say that word because I'm going to get demonetized, charges. So they're claiming that Vic married a 16-year-old. Actually, that wasn't Vic at all. It was a drama teacher and voice actor who used to date Monica Rial. 41, caught having sexual relationship with student, 16, took her to Las Vegas to marry her with her mother's blessing after police probe. So this person's entire basis on Vic being a piece of crap is that he's a pedo because of a statement from Hanlia's friend, which apparently isn't even about Vic. Let that sink in, guys. This entire witch hunt against Vic has been started based on a misunderstanding. So the judge for the Vic Mignogna lawsuit has determined that Jamie, Marchi, Ron Toy, and Monica Rial are all dismissed from the claims that Vic has made against them. As of now, unless Vic decides to appeal the case is over. Vic Mignogna has electronically filed his appeal today, October 24. Vic Mignogna is appealing the court case against every single defendant. So essentially, round 2 is about to start.